speak. I want to thank, first of all, the organizers for inviting the IGF Secretariat to join you. It was wonderful to hear from colleagues that spoke before me, very informative, and it's, I guess, on the pleasure of all, always a learning experience, because so many things in terms of the capacity development exist in the ecosystem, and they are continuously being approved. So every time this opportunity arises, for us, it's always useful to catch up with the new updates. Thank you very much. As you said, my name is Anja Gengo. I work at the IGF Secretariat. The IGF Secretariat is an office based at the United Nations regional office here in Geneva, in Switzerland, that whose main task is to facilitate the implementation of the Internet Governance Forum as a process that I will be speaking in the next couple of minutes. We are probably in the busiest period of the year now for our office, just because the 17th annual IGF meeting is approaching very soon. So next week we are off to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, where officially the 17th annual IGF meeting will start on 28th of November all the way until 2nd of December of this year. Let me please share a couple of slides that I have with you. So just a second, please. Okay, you should be able to see it probably. So in the couple of minutes, I would like to first of all say a few words about what the IGF is as a concept, and then I would like us to focus more on what's coming up to us in just a couple of days. Many of us, I'm sure, here also present on the call are among the fortunate ones that will be in person in Addis Ababa at the 17th IGF. But if you are not among those, then certainly the IGF is hosted in a hybrid format, so connecting and participating online is definitely an option. As I said at the beginning, I mentioned the word project, and the Internet Governance Forum is a project, better yet, maybe a process that exists within the umbrella of the United Nations. It has quite a long and not so simple history, but for the purposes of this meeting, allow me just to remind on the two very important phases of the United Nations World Summit on the Information Society, in short, WSIS. Those two phases in 2003 and 2005 were really important to allow the community, not just the member states through the traditionally multilateral process of the United Nations, but also other stakeholders to speak up and to call for forming a process, a forum, an arena where everyone as equals will be able to raise and discuss issues that are related to Internet governance. One of the first steps was to, first of all, define or describe what Internet governance is, and that's been done by the working group on Internet governance that's been composed of different stakeholders of different backgrounds. We are still functioning on the basis of that working definition of Internet governance, and it's extremely important because that's a recognition of the multi-stakeholder model. I'm sure you can see it on the screen. In short, the Internet governance is being described as development and application by governments, the private sector, civil society, in their respective roles of shared principles, norms, rules, decision-making procedures, and programs that shape the evolution and use of the Internet. Building on this definition and building on the final output of the WSIS phases, which is the Tunis Agenda for the Information Society as an official document, the IGF was given birth and was given the mandate. The first annual meeting was hosted in early 2006, well, in late 2006 in Athens in Greece. And the rest is pretty much a history. We've come a long way. This year marks the 17th year of the IGF. And as I said, we are hosted by the government of Ethiopia just in a couple of days. Structurally speaking, the IGF is composed of a couple of interconnected components. Allow me just to mention the very few, which are, I think, the heart of the IGF. Certainly, all the people gathered around the IGF and its intersectional work, which is the work happening between the two annual meetings. But on a more formal side, The program of the IGF has been advised on by the members of the Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group. The MAG is currently chaired by Mr. Paul Mitchell, the first chair coming from the private sector. And it has 40 members coming from different stakeholder groups, different regional groups, but also has full gender parity across it. I know that we also have had good representation on the MAG coming from Nigeria and the region where you are in. In addition to the MAG, as of this year, we have the so-called leadership panel. The leadership panel is a 15-member group composed of experts and leaders from very high level, whose task is to, complex task is to, first of all, bring more visibility to the IGF, but also make it more advanced, more relevant to the world and the current challenges of digital public policy, and also to help translate the valuable outputs and outcomes the IGF produces at the end of its cycle every year into practice and into where it could be useful. So to bring it closer to the decision makers, to those that are thinking about making decisions, to have their decisions informed. And then additional structure, as I mentioned at the beginning, is the office where I'm in. That's the IGF Secretariat, which acts as a neutral facilitator of the overall process and makes sure that the IGF fulfills its mandate. The IGF Secretariat institutionally is placed with the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, which physically resides at the UNHQ in New York. In terms of the funding is completely extra-budgetary. In other words, the IGF depends on donations, and the donations relate to donors coming from different stakeholder groups, so ranging from governments to technical communities to even academic and research institutions and other non-governmental sector, as well as to the private sector. Core principles of the IGF, just outlined by the document that gives mandate to it, the Tunis Agenda for the Information Society, relate to a couple of very important values. The first one is multi-stakeholder, and I'm sure you already put two and two together when I was speaking about the MAG, about the leadership panel, about the intersectional work briefly mentioned. The fact is that, and also of course, the definition of the internet governance itself, the whole philosophy here is that we need everyone to work for the internet that we all want. And Alejandra spoke a little bit before me about the really importance and value of having one open, free, interoperable, safe and secure internet. And as such, it can only be put in existence and maintained and protected by everyone discussing as equals its very complex features, ranging from the technical part all the way to the policy part. In addition to being multi-stakeholder, the IGF runs on the principles of inclusion and openness, transparency, but also bottom-up decision-making processes. That means that everything, all outputs and outcomes produced at the end of the year really do come from people. And the concept of open consultations is basically a modus operandi of everything that the IGF is working on the substance. I mentioned at the beginning, 17th annual IGF meeting is soon to be hosted by the government of Ethiopia. And you can see here all the governments that had hosted the IGF in past. So last year, for example, we were in Poland. Before that, there were really ranges of government. We are very fortunate this year to go back to Africa after over 10 years since the last time the IGF was hosted in Nairobi in Kenya. This is just to illustrate a little bit the atmosphere at the IGF. So it's always quite vibrant, quite busy. It's an excellent opportunity to meet different people from different backgrounds, different countries, different regions, who may share the same interests as you or may not, but they're very important to be consulted. Certainly, you can see here the Secretary General as the original convener of the IGF is traditionally opening the meeting, and that's the expectation of this year as well. I mentioned at the beginning the whole cycle of the IGF and the fact that the consultative bottom-up nature really reflects throughout the planning process of the IGF. So you can see here on this cycle, on the sketch, just very quickly what the IGF is all about, from the initial planning and consultation with the community toward the MAG, determining what's the focus of the insertional work, gathering inputs from the community to put together the agenda, all the way to all of us meeting in person or online on the occasion of the annual IGF meeting. These upcoming 5 days of the IGF is not, of course, everything that we work on and for throughout the year. That's just one part of the IGF as a process. I mentioned the insertional work as the work that's happening in between the 2 annual meetings. So concretely this year, we've been very busy in working with people, stakeholders, organizations, individuals across the world on 2 best practice forums on cybersecurity and gender and digital rights, on 2 policy networks on internet fragmentation and meaningful access. And in addition, we have 24 dynamic coalitions, which are continuously working on different issues throughout the year, really independently from where the annual meeting is hosted and when. And if you visit the IGF website, you can notice that there's really a huge variety of issues that DCs are focusing on. So, for example, if you're interested maybe with the Internet of Things or domain name system or access or human rights online and so on, then there are plenty of ways to connect with these multi-stakeholder networks of institutions and individuals and start contributing, but also start building your partnerships, cooperation, and your networks. And then I think, was it Caleb or somebody else that was mentioning before me, the concept of the national, regional, sub-regional, and youth IGFs. We are very fortunate that the IGF, after it has been convened shortly after, inspired many stakeholders from around the world on starting their own IGF processes. So in short, there are now 156 countries and regions running their NRIs, national, regional, or sub-regional processes. Sometimes they can be really youth specifically focused. And certainly Nigeria is one of the national IGFs who I believe pioneered the whole practice, given the year that it's been established and also given the really extensive journey that it's been through. It's been a wonderful learning example for all of us. And I see that Mary is on this call. She is the pioneer when it comes about internet governance, ambassadors or people who really made a change somewhere in the world, including through her work on establishing the Nigerian IGF together with other colleagues, but also the West African IGF, for example, the African IGF. So you are in a region of a very rich capacity when it comes about internet governance. And that itself provides really huge opportunity for starting to professionally engage in internet governance because we all have stakes in it, just as mere internet users. In terms of the IGF that's coming to us, the 17th annual IGF meeting, it's a very interesting one, a very important one. I'm sure you will agree, it goes without saying, it's happening in a very important geopolitical momentum. When digital technologies are becoming more and more important, not just for our personal ways of communication and work, but really for the global different dynamics happening in the world related to economy, related to political aspects and sustainability aspects and so on. So the IGF will be having more than 300 sessions. So they're all available on the IGF website in the agenda. There's a wide variety really of issues that are covered by those sessions. Topics are connected to the main themes of the IGF related to connectivity, internet fragmentation, data governance, safety, security, accountability, all the way to advanced technologies, for example, such as the AI. All this is nested under the main overarching theme of the IGF, which is resilient internet for a shared, sustainable, and common future. The IGF certainly expects quite a number of the high-level leaders, which will take place throughout the 5 days through a couple of sessions focused on matters such as access and data, also connectivity, So there will be a number of heads of governments, heads of private sector organizations, technical community institutions, IGOs, civil society organizations, and beyond this. In addition, the IGF is having a parliamentary track. So the parliamentary track is focused on engaging parliamentarians in matters related to safety and security and the way digital policies could enable that. We have over, I think, 50, 60 parliaments confirm their participation. And the roundtable will be an interesting opportunity to understand how legislators, so those who are coining laws, who are the decision makers, are engaging in a dialogue with other stakeholders of different backgrounds. And I hope that you will be able to participate actively in that roundtable. In addition, somebody mentioned, I think it was Alejandra, about the importance of investment into new generation of experts and leaders. The IGF Secretariat, but also other structures with the IGF, cannot agree more with this. And because of that, the youth track is something that's very, very important to the IGF. It's certainly central to its program. Throughout the year, we've been working with young people gathered around or with the youth IGFs, but also different youth international focused organizations, such, for example, as ISOC and the work Alejandra and her colleagues are doing, to understand what young people see in terms of opportunities, but also challenges on digital transformation and how can we build better capacity there, what could be done now for those that will take the positions of power and impact tomorrow to be in better conditions than we are now. So we had 4 capacity development workshops hosted back-to-back with big regional IGFs. And we are now entering really the finishing phase for hosting the IGF 2022 Global Youth Summit on digital transformation on 28th of November from the IGF 2022 venue in Addis Ababa. Certainly, if you cannot participate in person there, then I do encourage you to connect online and make sure to have your voice heard there. This is pretty much what I wanted to say. There are so many parts that I wanted to bring up, but I know we're limited in time. The IGF Village will also take place at the IGF in Addis Ababa. Those are basically exhibition spaces for different organizations dealing with internet governance. And I believe a really good practical opportunity for all of you to connect with these organizations and understand how can you maybe benefit from their work, how can you connect better and partner better with these excellent organizations. Again, if you cannot be in Addis and if you cannot connect with these organizations at the IGF Village in person, the IGF Village will have its counterpart online. So you can also connect online with these organizations, and I do strongly encourage you to explore those opportunities and to do so. I will stay here, of course, for any questions that you may have, and I want to thank the organizers once again for the invitation, for this time given, and looking forward to your inputs and hopefully to see many of you in Addis very soon.